we're going to launch into how real people used real instances of XchangeCore with a number of different applications and have demonstrated some remarkable accomplishments out in California. This is part of the multi-exercise that took place with the Department of Defense, state, and FEMA, all bringing together lots of resources, and the California Earthquake Clearinghouse coordinated the activities of all of its members, providing information to a wide range of recipient organizations and receiving it from them as well. So today, this is Ann Rosinski, who is chair of the California Earthquake Clearinghouse. This is her show with her participants. So I'm simply going to turn it over to Ann at this point, and it's all yours, Ann, and we appreciate you and your whole big team of people who are speaking today. Thanks very much in advance.
Okay, so this is not my show. This is really, the Clearinghouse is all about collaboration. So you're going to hear from all of our partners. We don't exist without all of our partners participating. So, but we're here to describe our participation in this multi-exercise. It was a great experience. And get started here. So I'm going to just briefly go over who the Clearinghouse, who we are, for those of you who haven't exercised. Then narrowing on what the Clearinghouse Technology Interoperability Project component was in the exercise. Then we'll hear from some of our participants and some of their experiences, and they'll show some of the things that they were able to do. And then our next steps, what we learned, and then if there's time, we'll have questions. And I want to also start out by thanking a bunch of people. Again, this is a team effort all the way. All of these people contributed incredible amounts of time and talent. And I want to say this now before I get played off by the orchestra at the end. And especially I would like to thank Dr. John Parrish, who is the state geologist and my boss at the California Geological Survey, for supporting my time and my efforts in working with the Clearinghouse. This is a big project, the Clearinghouse, and in order for us to succeed, we need to make a commitment to it. And all of these people have done a great job. So, moving forward. Okay, so for those of you that aren't familiar with the Clearinghouse, or some of you have, you're familiar with us already, but we've been around since 1971, and we've responded to most of the major earthquakes and tsunamis in California. We have zero funding. It's all entirely cooperative. So I don't have any authority to compel any organization to participate or perform any specific duty. Everybody in every organization participates on their own, of their own choosing, and they are entirely self-directed. We're not, primarily, a lot of our members are not first responders or emergency responders. A lot of our partners are subject matter experts who can provide information about the damaging effects of earthquakes. And the composition of every earthquake is different, and it's determined by the event itself. So, for instance, the South Napa earthquake last August, in the 3 days that the physical clearinghouse was activated, we had over 100 people from 40 different organizations show up. A little bit about the exercise. It was based on the 2008 shakeout scenario, which is a magnitude 7.8 earthquake on the southern San Andreas, and it was a rupture starting in the Salton Sea, rupturing, propagating north up to around Lake Passaic, which is about 200 miles. There were some definite exercise artificialities I want to make you aware of. The most important one was that we all had to play the same lie, meaning that there were specific types of damage that were expected, and so everybody needed to adhere to that. So we couldn't say that a giant tsunami wiped out Southern California when that was a part of the exercise, the damage scenario. So that was important. We also, for the Clearinghouse, because we are we play a small but important supporting role, and so we wanted to make sure we were focusing our efforts on topics that were going to be a focus in the exercise. So in particular, we focused on road closures and hazmat incidents in the Cajon Pass area and also in Los Angeles County. Also, don't get hung up on the specifics about the data that you see. The exercise was to demonstrate proof of concept. So, for instance, we're focusing on road closures, but Caltrans and CHP are the authoritative sources of that information. We're not trying to imply that we are the source of authoritative source, but the Clearinghouse partners and volunteers are a credible source of information. And an example of that is again, with the South Napa earthquake, a real earthquake last year, one of the issues that emerged out of that earthquake was afterslip. And, some CGS and USGS geologists were out mapping the fault rupture and could see that, even after the shaking had stopped for several days, and it continues, the fault and the plates continue to adjust to that sudden movement, and so there continues to be creep along the surface, which can affect structures. And so some geologists were out there, they were mapping the fault rupture, and they noticed that there was, it was projecting toward an active railroad. Well, again, CGS, USGS, we don't run the railroad, we're not the engineers, but that's definitely important information that they need to know about. So that's what we're kind of getting at, that there's going to be information that's going to be coming from different sources, and that's what we're trying to show here in this exercise. And then finally, for simplicity's sake and to make the exercise more transparent, we didn't impose any restrictions on the data shared. And that would be true, the clearinghouse, as a rule, we share everything, but the individual participating organizations can decide what they want to share and who they want to share it to. And that's certainly possible, but again, for the purposes of this exercise, we just all decided to make everything that we were putting out there shareable. So when we get to operationalizing some of the things, the XchangeCore capabilities, that's one of the things that we'll do is we'll expect our partners to develop their own specific sharing agreements. Okay, so, and in addition to the focus of this call for this presentation today is to talk about our technology, interoperability, and information sharing capabilities, but that's not all we did in the exercise. We also did 3 overflights. We had one with the California Highway Patrol. They provided reconnaissance, and they were tremendous support for the Napa earthquake. NASA JPL did a UAV SAR mission for us, providing some remote sensing data. And then the California Air National Guard did some imagery acquisition for us, and Sergeant First Class Jeffrey Fuller will be talking about that a little bit later. We also had a clearinghouse representative in the State Operations Center. We were able to successfully test the Cal EOC system. We added our overflight mission request through the Cal OES operations branch, and then we also set up a physical clearinghouse location where we were able to implement our disaster service worker program. So we're able to now provide limited liability coverage for clearinghouse volunteers. So it was a very, very busy week. So the reason that we're doing this is that the clearinghouse, there is a state and a federal mandate to operate the clearinghouse. It isn't optional. It's a requirement of Section 2201 of the California Public Resources Code and the National Earthquake Hazard Reduction Program, which says, quote, the purpose of the clearinghouse is to provide emergency managers with timely and relevant information from the ongoing field investigation. And on the federal side, the FEMA branch of DHS formalized the clearinghouse concept after the state created the model, but neither the state nor the federal requirements were really specific about how that information sharing could happen or was supposed to happen. So it was a bit of a head scratcher for us, but DHS Science and Technology Directorate supported the development of the XchangeCore technology, and that's allowing us to be able to share information. And it's open source, meaning it's free, so it's great because that fits our budget. And the purpose of this is to allow each organization to use the specialized tools and technologies that in many cases they've specifically developed. They're custom tools that best support their roles and responsibilities in responding to a disaster. And any disaster, this isn't just for earthquakes. The clearinghouse is doing this for, using the clearinghouse as a laboratory to test this, but it's not just for earthquakes. We want to liberate people from the routine, mundane, very critical, but very time-consuming tasks of moving, sharing, organizing, and managing data. And, when they least have time to do that, like when you're trying to prepare for an executive briefing. And we want to give data experts and analysts, the ability to have more time to perform the really critical and important tasks they need to complete to support disaster response efforts. So those are all the goals that's why we're doing all of this. And we're building on past efforts. This is not something that we just did overnight. We've been doing this for the last several years. Since 2012, we've done 2 exercises per year, total of 6. And we've had 2 real earthquakes, the La Habra earthquake, which is a magnitude 5. We used it as a training opportunity, and then we had the real magnitude 6 earthquake last August. We also, last April, did a one-day technology interoperability workshop, and that was supported through NAPSIG, and that's available, that recording of that discussion is available on the NAPSIG website. And then we also, for the last, for the 4 months leading up to the exercise, we did a weekly training session on different topics on XchangeCore. And again, those are all recorded, and you're welcome to continue to go to those and learn and practice all of these things yourself. So the big difference between, what the Clearinghouse did this year in the national level exercise as opposed to what was demonstrated in the national level exercise last year is that we're demonstrating that data is agnostic. It's not restricted to any particular technology, application, platform, or viewer. It's the concept that you see in social networking. People share information, same information. They put it on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, text, email. And the same should be true about disaster response information. You should be able to share it in ArcGIS Online, in Google Earth, Web EOC, Next Generation Incident Command, mobile tools, and these are just a few of them. But the data itself should be usable by anybody using whatever technology they think is most appropriate. And again, XchangeCore can be used with lots of different technologies, but for the purposes of the exercise, we focus on these specific applications. And our goal is to organize information more effectively, so emergency priorities aren't obscured by unrelated information. We wanted to encourage better coordination between clearinghouse scientists and engineers, subject matter experts in the field, and emergency managers and emergency operations centers. And we wanted to be able to help support emergency managers so they can make informed decisions about logistics and resources when they have real-time information about disaster impact. And this is what the deployment diagram looked like for this exercise. We had 4 organizations that had XchangeCore, and the Clearinghouse conducted 12 weekly training sessions over 4 months. These are some of the organizations who requested credentials to use the Clearinghouse XchangeCore, and they're all given those credentials. And then these are some of the tools that we have successfully tested with XchangeCore over the last few years. And again, for the exercise, we focused on Google Earth, SpotOnResponse, ArcGIS Online, the Clearinghouse Field Notes tool, and Web EOC. So the stated exercise goal was to, practice, appropriate data visualization, map, text, statistics, analysis, and this is what success would look like for each one of these different technologies. Working with a specific single incident, seeing what your information looks like on different applications. And there's a logical order of operations to the implementation of our technology interoperability project. The first step is we had to find a technology that would allow us to share the information. And we, again, as I mentioned, our Clearinghouse participation is voluntary. It's different with every event. So we had to make sure that we can support everybody. We can't impose any type of restriction on what people want to use. And XchangeCore provides that capability for us. And then, having that capability, now we have the ability to address our second goal, which is to orchestrate the data into meaningful incident-related content in standardized formats that can be used by decision makers. So it's way more than just putting dots on a map. And you're going to see some examples of that. That's what we're going to be showing you. The benefit is improved situational awareness, sharing essential elements of information. And participation occurred according to many different, there are lots of different ways people participated. Some just were connecting, some were pushing or pulling one data one time. And then, as the week wore on, people were getting even more involved in, finding out that they could share real-time data sets of different types and combining and working with all of that data of different types from different sources in their own different technologies. So it was a pretty great experience to see all of this unfold over that week time. And it was information sharing between multiple state, federal, and local organizations. So it wasn't just federal to federal or state to state or local to, it was all of these organizations were sharing information back and forth. And that was really important. This is a kind of summary of the different types of incidents that were shared throughout the week. And the incident types that you see here, impact, incident structure, incident, environmental, those incident types define the what in the Department of Defense UCORE standard, which is currently, as I understand it, currently being merged into the National Information Exchange Model. And that what is what allows us to create custom KML and DORSS feeds for XchangeCore that you're going to see demonstrated later. So, so here's an example of what Cal EPA was able to do. I was hoping we would be able to have a Cal EPA representative in person to be able to describe this, but they had previous commitments that they provided some slides and some information for me to share with you. So this is an incident. This is a hazmat incident. It's a chlorine release, and they included a resource. They uploaded an attachment, which is the incident status summary FEMA form ICS 209A, which is a situation report. You can also, upload photos, videos, spreadsheets, whatever you want. Now, again, so Paul Penn was with Cal EPA was not able to be here this morning, but he sent this for me to share with you, and I want to read it to you. He says, as the California Environmental Protection Agency, including its boards, departments, and offices, enhances its emergency management capabilities and fulfills its responsibilities under Emergency Function 10, which is oil and hazardous materials, an emphasis was placed on maximizing situation status and awareness. Building on the axiom of, if you don't know what's going on, you don't know what to do about it, gleaning salient information in a massive, dynamic, and complex event such as a catastrophic earthquake is always the challenge. Content provided through XchangeCore far exceeded that available from other sources. In our case, multiple resources, both text and graphics, were projected on a wall simultaneously to visually display impacts, hazards, and vulnerabilities. The ability to capture, filter, and layer data provided by XchangeCore in the California Earthquake Clearinghouse allowed Cal EPA staff to not only identify hazards, such as hazardous materials releases, but to also determine potential impacts on receptors, such as healthcare facilities, to convey to local responders that may not have been apparent on the ground. Cal EPA sees technology such as XchangeCore as invaluable in effective emergency management. We would like to express our appreciation to the Clearinghouse for their efforts in providing this tool and look forward to exploiting its capabilities and capacities further. So that was the experience with Cal EPA, and this was some of the, here to talk about some of the data that they described being able to use. Dr. Maggie Glasgow, I like to, when I said all partners dedicated their time, Maggie Glasgow, in addition to working on the Clearinghouse exercise, was completing her PhD and working on the Nepal earthquake. So when I say we have an incredible team, that is an understatement. So I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Maggie Glasgow.
Thanks, Ann. For the NASA effort, we had several teams that provided information for the exercise, and we shared our information through our XchangeCore. So I'm just going to show some highlights from three, I think, slides here. So we have two sister projects here, Eticider and GeoGateway, that produce some products that we shared through XchangeCore. So for Eticider and GeoGateway, we produced deformation models. They're not shown here, but and then aftershock forecasts. And also the product that's displayed here is the hazardous damage and loss estimation preliminary models. So this is showing a damage and loss estimation based on census tracts. So it takes the USGS shake map and does a hazardous-based damage estimation and gives you information on casualty and damage. So in the pop-up there, you see where the mortally injured and life-threatened injuries are, and then also the damage to buildings, so slight, moderate, extensive, and complete damage based on census tract. And then we also have preliminary damage estimates based on several of the hazardous infrastructure layers, and so we just called out 4 of the layers here. We did highway bridges, I think rail bridges, potable water, and healthcare facilities, because those were the most relevant to the exercise scenario. So on this layer, this is in the Cajon Pass area, and we did the highway bridges, and so this we did red yellow-green tag, and this shows the highway bridges in the Cajon Pass, and this is a red tag bridge. And so this would help to sort of direct the priorities for folks out in the field to go and investigate. So this is just a sample of one of the products, and this was displayed in SpotOnResponse, and was also able to bring in these layers into ArcGIS Online and make an integrated product. I believe Phil was also able to bring this into AGOL and make a nice integrated product as well.
And you'll see that shortly. And I also want to point out, Maggie said, they only, for the exercise, they only, we asked them to just show us 4 of those house players, but Maggie, you said there are, 23 actually?
No, I think it's 17.
17, yeah. So there's much more than you're going to see here, but this, again, is an exercise artificiality.
Sure. So on the next slide, okay, so we also have another NASA partner, which is READY, and this is a partnership between Scripps, I might not get all of the institutions, but Scripps, Central Washington, JPL, and University of Alaska Fairbanks. I might have more institutions, but so READY provides rapid GPS analysis to provide information about the earthquake. It gives rapid information about peak ground displacement using GPS stations. So it gives an estimate of the magnitude, epicenter location. It also gives information about the fault, the fault model. It gives a fault model, and they also can provide information about a tsunami if the earthquake happens to be tsunami-genic. This one was not because it was strike slip fault, but the JPL group did provide a tsunami model, and since this wasn't a tsunami-genic earthquake, they still provided it, but it showed that there was no tsunami that was created by this particular earthquake. So this was the READY Rapid GPS data that was provided by that group. So the next slide. And as Ann mentioned, we did fly UAVSAR to sort of demonstrate how we can provide remote sensing data in the event of the earthquake. And so this was just sort of a demonstration of a flight line over Cajon Pass. We flew that on May 11th, the date of the earthquake. And the data was processed and posted on May 14th and provided through XchangeCore. And so this is just the interferogram over Cajon Pass. And just it demonstrates how you could visualize the interferogram through SpotOnResponse, and you could see how it could be overlaid with other of the data that was being shown in SpotOnResponse. So that's basically the data that we provided, and so I'll be happy to hand the reins back over to Ann.
Thanks, Maggie. Sure. So now we will go to step 4 with the California National Guard. And I should just point out, so all the information you saw on that previous slide is, all that and more is shown here. This is a screen capture from the California National Guard, and you can see here is the NASA READY Rapid GPS and NASA E-Decider deformation information that's showing up there. So Jeff, I'll let you take it away.
Thanks, Ann. So a little history or a little information on the National Guard. Obviously, we use Google Earth and primarily ArcGIS Viewer for Flex. We had some successes and we had some failures. One of the focuses for our training this exercise was really providing real-time full motion video and whatnot to first responders. And our secondary objective, obviously, was general situational awareness. We were able to fly a number of flights and coordinate with Civil Air Patrol to get a lot of airborne imagery collected, things of that nature. For the data points and whatnot, we used Google Earth a large bit, and were able to get all of that data into Google Earth. There were some successes and some failures there. Primarily, the great success was obviously seeing all the data. One of the problems we had data. It wasn't really wasn't weren't able to go through and see the say timestamps and things of that nature from a visual perspective. The general analysts that were looking at the data loved it because it was a lot of information, and it came into a platform that they're used to using and they're comfortable with. On the Flex Viewer side, we weren't able to bring in the AGOL feed. I think that's an internal issue for us, though, and not a failure or anything. I think it's an internal training error on our side. But generally, I would say this is an amazing tool, and it was really great to see all the data. And we were really excited to be able to participate in the exercise. That's all I have, Ann.
Well, thank you. And again, the California National Guard has been a huge support of ours. They've provided our location for our physical clearinghouse down at Los Alamitos. They worked with us with the Air Coordination Group. They helped us with defining the information acquisition deck, which is another clearinghouse priority. So we really appreciate all of your support. Thanks. So our next speaker is Marie Kennedy with the San Diego Law Enforcement Coordination Center.
Thanks, Ann. And hi, I'm, as mentioned, Marie Kennedy with the San Diego Law Enforcement Coordination Center. We are San Diego's fusion center and part of the DHS National Network of Fusion Centers. And so really our main role is being able to coordinate across federal, state, and local assets and trying to ensure especially intelligence community needs are serviced across multiple agencies. So the first thing, overall what we were attempting to do here is really helping two major aspects. How can we help our local government partners integrate their information into the state level, and then likewise ensuring that everything coming both from state and or our counterpart counties that we're having access to that. So a couple of tasks here, how XchangeCore worked for us in this effort. My first example here, this is a basic operational question, but just making sure it functions and it works, and that is the first question, which is how can we help? If we're being EMAC'd in a situation, emergency mutual assistance agreement, if we're going to help our partners, how do we get there? How long is it going to take? What's the quickest route? And being able to do that instantly. That was integrating this into the map through XchangeCore saved us time from having to copy, paste, look at it somewhere else, bring it back, and so forth. Next slide. Yeah, and so our second major task really gets into that working across multiple levels of government questions. Specifically in this one, is I was looking at which image would be the best image to pull in order to perform my damage assessment, in order to support our partners to support the task. Imagery files are very, very large. They're often anywhere between 2 to 4 gigabytes, and that's just one image. And so in that, I want to be smart about what I need to pull in order to do my damage assessments to provide information that my partners need. So here, I was able to combine the 3 primary things that I really, really need to be able to do that to select the right thing. And that is, the significant events via the XchangeCore, the reference layers. In this case, we happen to look out and have reference layers with the status indicators showing which roads are extremely damaged compared to moderately damaged. And then on top of that, that third part, which is what is the available imagery, where is it located. So we're combining those 3 things, the again, your XchangeCore, the reference information, available imagery, I was able to pull the correct image. So next slide. And so this third task really was the next step from that particular, the second task. And that was being able to just bring in, download, bring in that available imagery and being able to perform a damage assessment. Really the key note on this is that XchangeCore really helped us assure that we were looking at the best available data so that we could perform our full damage assessments and therefore have better situational awareness. So overall, our next step that we're planning to move forward with in this is there's kind of an internal task in here, and that's advocating for the GeoRSS component that XchangeCore makes work executed really well for integrating that into some of the baseline capability on ArcGIS without requiring extensions. This would better serve multiple partners on our side. And then that's kind of a small item, but the most important out of all of it is that as we as a Fusion Center move forward with our partners, that we continue to prioritize that solutions must be able to work within multiple tools. One of the key things that works well in this exercise is that it honors the fact that organizations have different needs and they use different tools because we have different needs, we have different missions. The solutions for these types of complex disasters must incorporate the ability to work across all the tools, and we found that this worked for us in this particular exercise. So that's all I have. Thank you, Anne.
Thank you, Marie. We really appreciate that, and again, all of your help as well. So, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about this. So this is another example of combining information from different sources. This is showing the green are the liquefaction hazard zone data provided by my organization. This is my day job, is doing liquefaction hazard zoning. And then the census tract information is here. The kind of black mosaic here. That's census tract information, that's overlaid with the liquefaction zone, so you can see which areas are in the liquefaction zone and get information about the population. And then also, we've got a hazmat plume here, and then these points are nursing homes within the plume footprint, and these are all visualized in SpotOnResponse. So all these pieces of information are being shared through XchangeCore from different applications, and they're all being visualized here. And then again, these are just some representative types of data. Instead of the polygon representing a hazmat situation, you can imagine other types of data. It could be a utility company providing boundaries for power outages and combining that with data on locations of critical use facilities affected, like, hospitals or schools, and, the possibilities are endless. So, think about what ways your organization could use this capability. And then this is an example from California Department of Public Health. Ann Millington and Svetlana Smartinsky and Charles Schaefer with CDCA were in their EOC during the exercise. Unfortunately, they again also had another previous exchange commitment and were not able to be here in person today. But this was one of the products that Svetlana put together. I really want to commend Svetlana and Ann for their efforts, because if you remember in that earlier slide I was showing, what participation meant. And for some people it was, it was just a matter of viewing the information. And for other people it was, okay, I'm just going to put work with one specific incident. Well, Svetlana and Ann just broke new ground. They were coming up with workflows to be combining different layers of information in different ways to create an actual really great decision support product. So we have, again, plume information that's also providing information about populations within that plume that speak English not as well, and so they're an affected population. And the implications and then they put it, what's the implication of this is, how the issue of evacuation or shelter in place or to populations with diverse linguistic needs is something that would need to be considered. So you need to know who is your target audience. You need to know who's in that, how many people, where would you want to target geographically that message to get there. So they were able to combine information from these different sources to provide this type of information. And Phil Balin, City of Walnut Creek, I know you were working with Ann and Svetlana. Was there anything else that you might want to add about this?
Just the emphasis that one of the keys of being able to successfully transfer data is not just the boundary outline, but as you see in the picture that is shown here, the attributes and the values of the attributes need to come over in a way that they can be displayed as you see there, but also when there's a group of them, being able to summarize and aggregate the information, meaning you need a higher level of flexibility using the data, which this successfully shows that we can do.
Great. This is another example of a thematic map. This was one that I put together for FEMA. And this is showing road closures and in context of the USGS shake map, showing areas of highest shaking, and then also the NASA JPL damage information. And I was able to do this because the Clearinghouse and FEMA coordinated on how to categorize damage reports for roads. So field personnel were able to use specified categories that we had in SpotOnResponse, and that were also then that information was shared to XchangeCore, and you can see that up here. This is the incident in XchangeCore. And then anyone could filter those incidents from XchangeCore to select only the incident type that they're interested in. So for this map, I selected road closures, and all I had to do was add the GeoRSS feed for those specific categories. So incident road open and incident road closed, the AGOL map. And then, as I said, I added the USGS map and the NASA data for context. And I want to point out that because this map has the XchangeCore feed, all the additional road open or road closed reports from people in the field are automatically going to be added to this map. So, you're always going to have the most up-to-date real-time information about the status of what's going on. And again, here you can see, here's the road, and you can see the damage corresponds to the areas of highest shaking. So if somebody's planning, logistics, trying to ship in, supplies on the ground, they're going to know, hey, these are the areas we want to avoid, and probably these routes here, even though, there may not be information coming in right away, probably these roads are more likely to be open than these roads here. So again, people can start making decisions based on this type of information. And anybody could do this for their organization. Water resources, they could create, specific, incidents related to, water conveyance systems being damaged or open or closed. Whatever works best for your organization. And then in your EOC, you have up-to-date information, field ground truth information from your team that's reporting in, and you can share that with other organizations. And so then I'm going to now, Phil Balin, again, he's another person who provided countless effort. He just did a tremendous job helping coordinate with everybody. And so he's going to talk about some of the data products he was able to produce.
Hi, so this is Phil Balin, the GIS coordinator at the city of Walnut Creek, a city of about 65,000 east, 30 minutes east of San Francisco. And as a local agency, we just don't have the resources to develop and be able to create applications and abilities to share data. So we take advantage of a lot of the federal and state efforts and regional efforts that have already been created. And as part of this exercise, the slide that you're looking at actually displays a lot of information that we as a local agency, we need to know what's going on beyond our administrative boundaries. And again, we're in Northern California, this is in Southern California, but we're participating with the idea that these same skills and capabilities are the same ones that we're going to need to be able to use if we have something happen in our area, which it also has active faults. And so in this slide here, you can see a number of things, as I mentioned. One is through XchangeCore, we have a feed of information coming in of live data, which are those orange dots. The main focus of this particular slide is that I wanted to show, as I mentioned, that when you can bring in another agency's data, one of the things you typically want to do with it is take advantage of the data values and maybe summarize them. And in this case, the little orange dots are just a subset of thousands of the health facilities in California. And what I did here was to use the blue boundary to just subset a certain set of those, because what I was after was being able to show that I could, once I selected that subset, then I could summarize the number of beds. And there's a field in the table that you look at that says fax beds. And this is a state agency layer that's coming through XchangeCore. I'm able to pull it in, subset it, be able to display it, be able to use it in a quantifiable kind of way. And you can see on the right there it says statistics. I'm just taking advantage of ArcGIS Online with and its ability to summarize particular fields. But again, that ability to bring in other data from agencies and be able to summarize and aggregate it. This is a common theme in emergency response, that you need to summarize your data for decision makers. They don't want to see a million points on a screen in the same color and have to click on every one. They want you to think ahead, organize the data meaningfully, and then be able to show them a summary of the information. And in this case, this is part of it. Also that you can see here are coming through XchangeCore information about the damaged roads on the right, which is another part kind of push yourself away from your computer screen, you'll see some faint gray lines that if you stare at them for a minute, you'll notice that they look like arrows. Those are actually live wind vector data with the magnitude. I'm zoomed in so far that you can't really see them, but NOAA is providing a live capability to look at wind direction. And, you know, we have a plume here, so wind direction is important. And we're actually able to integrate that in here. And their data, and notice there's a time slider bar right below the map portion of this. It actually allows you to see the time that they've modeled of what the wind vector is going to be presently, in 8 hours, in 24 hours, and so forth. And it becomes a very important capability for many kinds of decision makers when you can pull this kind of data together. That's good for this slide. And in this slide, I'm using a SpotOnResponse tool. Again, we don't want to be using our own set of tools, so I'm using a tool that's already developed to be able for our ground field staff to collect information. And here I'm just simulating a landslide, that blue X in the middle of the screen. I'm able to attach a landslide photograph to it, and I'm able to actually use XchangeCore's ability to bring in lots of other data. In this case, those little red faint patterns are actually landslide potential that are coming from the California Geologic Survey. And here's another picture of the same scenario where I've again added other sources of data, the landslide fault, a landslide inventory, and then I think you saw a photo of the actual landslide that I was able to update. So again, as a local agency, this XchangeCore integration with the various GIS tools that we have allows us to pull together and summarize meaningfully a lot of the data the agencies are providing. Thanks, Ann.
Thanks, Bill. That was really great. Really appreciate that. And then finally, we did a little bit with Web EOC. So for those of you who've been watching our previous exercises, you've seen us demonstrate Web EOC before. And this is the regional incident board that we've used in past exercises. And it's like everything that we've done, everything is available free to anybody who's using XchangeCore, and this is available to Web EOC users. And there are a couple new improvements to the Web EOC XchangeCore capability. There is a new position log. There's two new boards in Web EOC, the position log, which is sometimes called the activity log. Most Web EOC installations use that, and we can use this to create a position log for the Clearinghouse and inject from XchangeCore field observations from Clearinghouse members. So inside an EOC using Web EOC, staff can see what's being reported from the field. And then, for you Web EOC users, you know that you can then, take those observations and they can be elevated to the significant event board. And finally, and here's another view, here's XchangeCore integration through to a Web EOC mission tasking board. And you see the mission tasking assignments referencing federal and state log numbers and tasking specific agencies and resources. And then here over on the right, you see an ArcGIS Online showing all the information in Web EOC. So it's the same information that you got in both. And the real-time integration between Web EOC and ArcGIS Online is really important. It's a big improvement in your common operational picture, again, more than dots on a map. You have content in both of those maps, and they're updated by the minute for your Web EOC. And again, all these tools are available for free. Let's see, I have one more slide. I guess that's it. And so just to kind of wrap things up, this is kind of a summary of all the things that we were able to achieve. We were, the idea, and you've heard all of our partners, and again, they're self-directed and participated on their own. They were able to use the specialized tools and technologies that best support their roles and responsibilities. And again, it's not just for earthquakes, it's for any disaster. But, the Clearinghouse, we're contributing the Clearinghouse as a sort of laboratory, if you will, to be testing this. So if it works in California, if it can work for an earthquake, it can work for anything. And all of these people were able to, instead of spending their time trying to find data and manually coordinate it and organize it, a lot of that was done automatically for them by using XchangeCore. The incidents were categorized, and people could pull specific information. They could show it in different in different ways that were customized for their executive staff, because executive staff that, for EF10 have different needs than executive staff at EF8 public health. Data analysts have more time to work on actually do their job doing the analysis. There's better coordination between the clearinghouse organizations, and again, the EOC managers would be able to make more informed decisions about what they're doing based on better situational awareness. So going forward, there are definitely things we need to improve. There are things that we want to go forward with. One of the pre-exercise successes was we took some of the XchangeCore documentation and we customized that for clearinghouse routines and for clearinghouse specific types of response capabilities. And so specifically, using the connector for ArcGIS Online for specific clearinghouse partners. We also, one thing is, EOC computers all have different browsers, so it's important to have, all of those different browsers. Again, redundancy for resiliency, as Marcia McNutt says. So we want to continue the clearinghouse weekly trainings with XchangeCore with topics from the exercise. And if anybody who's out there, if you have a specific use case you want to explore, let us know. We'd love to do that. EERI, one of our partners, did a great example. I think it's lesson 10 or 11, showing how it was used for the South Napa earthquake, and how you can share information. So all that's out there. We want to maintain access to all the data, so anybody who's out there who wants to use the XchangeCore connector for ArcGIS Online or SpotOnResponse or Google Earth, let us know. You can still do that. You can still see the data and still practice with it. Again, further refine processes, workflows, and tools that can immediately be operationalized. So many of the things that you heard our speakers discuss, those are things that we can formalize right away and make those part of our everyday work routines, not just for disasters. And then continue to further develop capability with XchangeCore. One of the important things is to expose work products and CIS services available over the web. And part of that solution are 2 work products to be exposed through the use of ArcGIS Online as a geospatial repository. And the solution will ensure that the updates to the CIS are reflected back to XchangeCore. So, I think that's it. So, Jim, I'll hand it over to you and to everybody. And if anybody has any questions for any of our